Hey guys, welcome to the Close More podcast, sponsored by Ringy. My name is Robin Dorville.
And I'm Carlos Correa. Today we're going to tell you about the 5 mistakes that are ruining your sales career.
Now before we do that, don't make the mistake by not subscribing to our channel, liking this video, and hitting that notification bell.
Let's move on to number 1 on this list, which is going to be failing to research your prospect before you actually call them. Such a simple task that is extremely neglected, and it's something that's really important to your sales process. Something as a simple Google search can highly change the landscape of the way that call goes. Finding out their LinkedIn, social media profiles, or maybe an article that's about them will really help you when you get on that call. It's going to help you gain that common ground, and finding out where they went to college, their favorite sports team, where they live, talking about the weather, something like that is going to help you gain that common ground and get you through the first 60 seconds of a call, which I've always told all my sales reps, and something that I live by. If you can get through that first minute, you're already halfway there. It's going to help you and help them trust you a little more by just talking to them and finding out a little bit about them as well. Doing the research on your prospect is going to help you actually talk to them about the product before you actually go into your spiel. So a lot of reps are just getting on the phone and just immediately going product. That's not what sales is. It's all about building relationships and gaining trust. You can do that easily by just doing some research on your prospects.
And you know what? This brings me to mistake number 2, allowing the prospect to lead the sales process. Have you ever gotten on the phone with a client and the client is just rushing you off of the phone, or they're being rude? Now, you've gone through the training, you are the expert, you have the product knowledge, you have to take control of the situation. Now, sometimes you have to match their tone. There's some people who are going to be arrogant. I'm not telling you to say the bad words that they're saying, but just show the confidence that you are the leader in providing them a solution to their problem. So calm them down, slow down the conversation, ask the proper questions, qualify them the way you should. And then from that point, that's when the trust is going to come. This is where Carlos was saying earlier, trust is the number one thing. So you've done your research of the client. You're going to use that research to show that client that you invested into their problem. So with that conversation back and forth between you and them, you'll be able to control the situation and go ahead and lead them through the sales process. Don't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And simple analogy, just to kind of put that into simpler terms, remain in the driver's seat. It's your car, you're driving it. The second you let the prospect get behind the wheel, you're never getting the keys back. So just kind of keep that in mind. You're the professional. This is what you do. Make sure that you lead that conversation professionally, of course, right? You don't want to be pushy. You don't want to be arrogant, but there's kind of a science to it, right? It's a nice flow to have when you're the one that's in control at all times. So just make sure that you understand that and you learn that. So that leads us into mistake number 3, and that's going to be talking way too much, which Robbins does all the time.
All the time.
Talking way too much is going to be a deal killer, right? If you speak more than you listen, chances are you're not going to have a good closing rate, right? So you can always talk your way out of a deal, but you can never listen your way out of a deal. Now, the reason why it's so important to listen is by listening to their pain points, by listening to their needs, by letting them talk. A couple of things happen there. While you're discovering what their problems are, you're also able to kind of put it into your head how you're going to position yourself with your product. How is this going to help them, right? And that's going to come from letting them talk, right? Now, if you talk way too much, you're also going to come off as arrogant, right? Somebody who just wants to listen to themselves speak, like Robbins does. Now, if you do that a lot, you're going to find yourself having people tell you they're not interested, they're not ready right now, something like that is going to occur. So make sure that you listen. A lot of sales reps are talking, I think it's like 75 to 85% of their calls. That's way too much, right? You want to have equal balance. Make sure when you do speak, it's of substance. It's not talking about irrelevant information, such as how much money you make, or how great your company is, or how long they've been around. Yeah, they're nice points to touch on, maybe in like an email or something like that. But when you're on a sales pitch, you want to listen. You want to make sure you listen. And when you speak, you're only speaking about things that are based off of what you just listened to.
And that's a perfect segue to mistake number 4, sharing too much information, especially irrelevant information. Back to what Carlos mentioned earlier, being in the driver's seat, right? So when a client comes to you, they have a problem. Now, you're the driver taking them to the destination that they need to be, but you can't find out the destination until you ask for directions, right? So that's where qualifying them, taking your time, understanding their problem, understanding the pain points. As you start gathering that information, this is why I talk so much, because I try to get as much information as I can. So 2 things. I know the exact directions that I need to go to as the driver, and I also understand the pain points to get them to that destination as well. So with that being said, you don't want to sit there and talk about all of your shiny objects, right? Because you can be a great salesperson. You can have a system that's amazing for them, but they may not need all of that. So once again, if you are the driver and they only want to get to a right across the street, just give them the information that gets them across the street. But if they want to go across country, now, more qualifying you do, the better directions you'll have, leading them by being the driver to get them to that next destination. So don't share all of your fancy bells and whistles. Just take your time, listen to the client, make sure you provide them information that they need, not what you want to provide them.
For sure. And that's going to lead us into our final mistake that you're probably making if you're new. And that's going to be neglecting your sales pipeline. Now, this kind of comes from maybe having a lot of pressure on you. You might have a sales manager or somebody on your back about getting new prospects, which is extremely important. We all know that. But having prospects fall through the cracks in your pipeline is a major mistake that you're making. I believe it's about 80% of leads that you receive are not going to convert initially. So what you're doing by not following up or neglecting your sales pipeline is essentially letting commissions or money spent just burn, right? Just throw it right away. Having new prospects, of course, it's always going to be on the top of the list, but following up and taking care of your pipeline is what's going to get you the best results, what's going to increase your ROI, and what's going to lower your CPA. So having a system in place for that is so crucial in today's day and age where data is just flying in by the second, is really going to help you with this as well.
And I'm glad he brought up systems, because that was the one thing I wasn't doing in the beginning. I was just trying to manually follow up. I had a big leaky bucket. You go through the training, you go through the qualifying with these prospects. The mistakes we make is the follow-up, right? And sometimes it's not our fault. We're human. We make mistakes, but when you have systems in place, it helps you to be efficient. Carlos, have you ever, you dealt with a client and you felt like it was a great conversation, but you dropped the ball? And then you just called them maybe 2 days too late and they told you they went with someone else?
Well, definitely not me, because I don't neglect my sales pipeline, but I've seen that happen to you on numerous occasions. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, back to me. Have you had a client that you've called 2 days later, especially in real estate? I'm in the real estate industry, and sometimes somebody may not be motivated and we just neglected the pipeline. And once we get back to the client and we reach out to them, it's like, no, I sold that about 2 weeks ago. And the fact that happened to me is the fact that I neglected the pipeline. I did not follow up with the client. I did not put system in place to follow up for me while I'm dealing with other clients, because I'm here to serve people, but I can't serve people all at once. This is why systems such as Ringy, right? Ringy is a good one.
Ringy is a great one.
This is why I like to use systems to make sure that our clients are served.
Yeah, absolutely. And just kind of lead into that before we go into conclusions is systems. Yeah, you definitely want to use some sort of automated system such as Ringy, but also a system within yourself. So make sure you build some sort of at least like a schedule for you. I'm not going to sit here and tell you times. There are statistics that show there are different times of the day, different times of the weeks that are better for calling, but make sure you dedicate and allocate some of your daily activity towards using your pipeline, right? Nurturing your pipeline. Make sure that you're not only spending time prospecting new hot leads, right?
Yeah.
You want to follow up at least a couple of hours a day with leads that you've had in the past week, 2 weeks, month, 2 months.
Right.
It's going to greatly increase your ROI and it's going to lower that CPA. So with that being said, we've gone over 5 great mistakes to touch on and things that if you change, and they're pretty easy to do, if you can work on these, you'll see success pretty quickly by just touching on these subjects. So just remember, you're in charge. Don't let the prospect lead the process. Qualify appropriately.
Take your time, listen to the client, Let them do most of the talking. Open-ended questions. The more they talk, the better it is for you. But at the same time, keep control of the conversation.
Don't bore your prospects to tears with the relevant information, things that you probably say as like fillers, and then afterwards you're like, why did I just say that? We've all been there. We've all done that. But make sure to touch that. Make sure to not do that, right? Because it's going to just make you look like the professional that you are.
And then, we're in the business to build a pipeline, with prospects. But at the same time, don't let them fall through the cracks. You work too hard for it. So don't neglect your pipeline. Make sure the prospects are taken care of.
Absolutely.
And also, listen, guys, it's okay to make mistakes. The problem that most people have is paralysis by analysis. And that happens is the fact that they're afraid to make that first mistake. As I was telling Carlos in the podcast before, I failed my way to success from time to time. So mistake your way to success. Mistake your way to the next sale. So don't be afraid of mistakes. We're just here to let you know what the common mistakes are and what solutions you can provide.
Yeah. And like you said, we're all human, right? So we're just bound to make mistakes. It's going to happen, right? But the difference between making them and not is the difference between you reaching your goal, you getting that nice commission check that you wanted, getting that prospect finally closed, after speaking to them for weeks or months at a time. So follow these mistakes that we went over, listen to the information, do your own research, and you're going to see results. It's just bound to happen if you follow, everything that we've gone over today. So do us a favor and do yourself a favor, subscribe to our channel, like this video, hit that notification bell. We will be producing content like this pretty regularly, and it will help you enhance your sales career and reach those goals that maybe you thought weren't obtainable.
Let's go, guys. I think it's going to be good.